Rory McIlroy, three-time winner of the FedEx Cup, has resigned from the PGA Tour Policy Board, citing professional and personal commitments in his resignation letter to the tour as the circuit attempts to negotiate a definitive agreement with Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund and navigate an uncertain future. McIlroy began his term in 2022 in the midst of an unprecedented threat from Live Golf, and he had been the tour's most outspoken supporter. Now, this from Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour. During his tenure, Rory's insight has been instrumental in helping shape the success of the tour, and his willingness to thoughtfully voice his opinions has been especially impactful. Given the extraordinary time and effort that Rory and all of his fellow player directors have invested in the tour during this unprecedented transformational period in our history, we certainly understand and respect his decision to step down in order to focus on his game and his family. Todd Lewis joins us now from Sea Island with more on this surprising news. Todd, what can you tell us?
Well, Damon, Rory McIlroy enthusiastically took his position on the PGA Tour Policy Board in 2022, not only to better the tour, but to better the game itself. And he did so while also being a big opponent of Live Golf and a proponent, maybe a huge voice, a proponent for the PGA Tour. You can easily make the argument he was the biggest voice. It seemed to energize him. Look at what he did on the course last year. He had 12 top 10s. He won 3 times, won the FedEx Cup. But then you turn the calendar to 2023 as the battle between Live Golf and the PGA Tour continued, and there was a heaviness that seemed to follow around Rory McIlroy. And then, of course, that surprise announcement in June, the PGA Tour announcing that they have agreed to work with PIF to form a new co, or try and form a new co. That caught everyone by surprise, including Rory McIlroy. He felt a bit betrayed and wanted to resign from the PGA Tour Policy Board last summer. But he decided that he was going to stick around after some encouraging words from fellow PGA Tour Policy Board members. Now here we are in November. He feels like it is the right time for him to step away from the Policy Board and concentrate on his craft. Now, Webb Simpson is in the field here at the RSM Classic, and he is also a PGA Tour Policy Board member. I had a chance to catch up with Webb to get his reaction on the announcement that Rory McIlroy is no longer a member of that board.
I was sad. I was disappointed. Not disappointed in him, just disappointed that, I don't get to continue on with him. He's a great friend. I've known him for a long time, going back to the Walker Cup in '07. But look, I got to say that, he's had a lot on his shoulders, being kind of, if not the guy, one of the main guys, kind of helping the PGA Tour, carrying the tour on his shoulders through the, through what's been going on in the game of golf. And, the launch of TGL, and all of us, we're a lot more than golfers. He's got a family and he wants to be more around. So I know it was a hard decision, but respect the heck out of Rory. And, yeah, I'll miss him being in those boards, hearing his ideas. He's a smart guy. But, yeah, I didn't see it coming, and I was surprised.
What did he bring to the board in his short tenure, in your opinion?
Being a global player his whole career, he's able to see the game not just from the perspective of PGA Tour member, but how can we grow the game around the world? He's playing in Middle East, Asia every year. He's seeing the game of golf growing or trying to grow in those markets, and I think he's the highest, the most highly sought after player on the PGA Tour right now. So I think he understands the value that he brings, and also the value the PGA Tour brings every week in every market we go to. So a lot of wisdom there, even though he's, mid-30s. But I'm sure he'll still be involved. I'm sure we're still going to consult with him some and get his help. We need it.
I spoke with Charlie Hoffman and Peter Malnati, also in the field here at the RSM Classic. They, too, are PGA Tour Policy Board members. They said they will miss Rory McIlroy's passion and intellect in the boardroom, but they understand his decision. It's a big commitment to be on the PGA Tour Policy Board. These meetings last 8 to 10 hours. As a matter of fact, Rory's last Policy Board meeting took place this past Monday. He was in Dubai. He dialed in and stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning, or close to that time, Dubai time, to be a part of that board meeting. So that was a huge commitment from Rory McIlroy. in trying to be on the PGA Tour Policy Board and continue to play at a high level. Jon Rahm understands the commitment a player must make to be on the PGA Tour Policy Board. He is competing in Dubai this week, and he was asked about Rory McIlroy's surprise announcement.
If I could just follow up, because obviously we've woken up to the news this morning that Rory McIlroy has resigned from the policy board on the PGA Tour. Just quite simply, what's your reaction to that? And you know, there's obviously a vacancy there now as well.
Oh, you won't see me there. Absolutely no chance. I've been asked a couple of times if I had any interest, and I'm not gonna spend, I don't know how many meetings they have, but they're 6, 7+ hours long. I'm not made for that. And as it comes to Rory, he's obviously been put in a situation where a lot has been expected of him, and I don't know the exact reason why he left the board, but I certainly wouldn't blame somebody like him to just want to focus a bit more on his game and his family and enjoy a bit of the time he's truly earned. Right? Again, it's a big commitment for somebody to be part of the board.
Were you surprised by the news?
I'm not sure that really matters if I was surprised or not. Did I expect it? Not really. But again, I can understand why somebody would do it, especially with everything that's been going on.
Would there have ever been some degree of competitive advantage in Rory committing so much time over to the policy board?
Hard to say. Because he's been also being part of the PAC and PAC chairman, which also requires some time, and has done great as well, right? I don't know. I think, again, it is a significant commitment, so it could have an effect. Because it's not only the meetings, it's the phone calls, there's players wanting to talk to you, right? So those hours you spend on the golf course are a little bit busier. So I think it could hinder a little bit. There's a reason probably why I can't recall any great player being a full-time board member while they're winning many tournaments and majors at the same time, at least in recent history. So I don't know if there ever was somebody. Maybe Jack and Arnie when they created the PGA Tour, but I can see how, you know, the lack of sleep and added stress can definitely hinder a little bit your ability to compete.
The PGA Tour Policy Board will now begin a search to find a player on tour to replace Rory McIlroy on the board. And yes, guys, it is a big blow to have Rory McIlroy step away from that policy board. But let's not forget, Tiger Woods was assigned to the PGA Tour Policy Board in August, and he has a very heavy influence.
Todd, you mentioned that it was just 2 days ago, the last meeting of the PGA Tour's Policy Board down in Ponte Vedra. Do we know what happened at that meeting? Did anything significant come out of it?
Well, nothing tremendously significant, but there was movement in regards to the deal being worked out between the PGA Tour and PIF. First, in the room, I told you about Rory McIlroy dialing in from Dubai, but in person in the room was Tiger Woods. He made the trip up from South Florida to Ponte Vedra. Jay Monahan, of course, the PGA Tour commissioner, he was there as well. One board member said that's as healthy as they have seen Jay Monahan since he took his leave of absence. He had a quiet strength about him. And in regards to the deal being worked out, we have heard other investors wanting to be a part of this deal, other groups. These groups are in a for-profit position. They want to get a return on their investment. And right now, the Saudis are receptive to having these groups be a part of this deal. Now, of course, the big question is, can they get this deal done by the deadline of December the 31st? As of now, that's quite uncertain. So we'll have to see what happens over the next 6.5 weeks.
Todd Lewis reporting from the RSM Classic, St. Simon's Island. I mean, these athletes, and I said it yesterday, they have enough of a struggle balancing work, trying to be number one, trying to be a husband and a father. And it makes you think, you know, what happened? Was it the timing of this board meeting at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in Dubai? Did something come from this board meeting that shifted his opinion on this framework agreement? Or was it just the law of diminishing returns, an economic term, when, you know, the restaurant owner hires a waiter and the profits go up, and then he hires a couple more waiters and the profits go down? And maybe he got that boost initially, that external motivation, and it just became too much, and he wants to simplify things.
I tend to think it's the latter in terms of the overload, because Rory McIlroy has a lot on his plate, just beyond being the husband, father, businessman, all of that stuff, and even beyond his game. I mean, we heard reference earlier from Webb Simpson to TGL launching. That's going to take more of his time next year, this kind of indoor simulator league that he's launching with Tiger Woods. But it's not just that he's been on the board for the last couple of years. He joined the Players Advisory Council 2 years before that. So basically since 2019, really long before all of this kind of Saudi investment and rival leagues ever really surfaced, Rory McIlroy has been involved in the administration. And I've talked to some people around the board a lot over the last few weeks, and the amount of time, even what it's a voluntary position that these guys are spending on it, is very significant. So if Rory McIlroy's experience is similar to other folks that I've talked to, well, then that drag is not insignificant at all. But I also think there's a potential political reason why Rory would leave the board as well. I think he's very conscious of the idea of a conflict of interest, in the idea that everyone has their own agenda here, and everyone's looking for an agenda even where none might actually exist. And we are now down to 5 private equity groups that are potential investors in the PGA Tour. And one of those is the Fenway Sports Group, which has a record with the Boston Red Sox. They own Manchester United, the Pittsburgh Penguins. But they also recently acquired a team in the TGL league, and it's Rory McIlroy's team. And there's no conflict of interest unless those guys do happen to be the bidding party or the bidding investors. But even the perception of that, I think, might have lingered on his mind as well, because they really are getting to the point now where the rubber's meeting the road here, Damon. The conversations that are going to start happening at a board level from this point on are going to leave people upset on one side of it or another, because it's not as though the entire board is aligned in one particular direction. People are going to be getting upset. And if you're like Rory McIlroy and you're going to add that to the other workload that you have, you might just think, you know what, now is really the time to go.
So business considerations, and then I love how John Rahm said that's like legacy considerations. What great dominant players have spent their evenings, focused on tour governance. I said Arnie and Jack, starting the PGA Tour, yes, but height of power, the focus was about winning and legacy and winning big tournaments. And maybe we should have seen this coming. Just Tuesday in Dubai, Rory McIlroy was asked about his happiness as a member of the board.
I don't know. I mean, are you enjoying having a seat at that particular table?
Not particularly, no. No, not what I signed up for whenever I went on the board. But yeah, it's the game of professional golf has been in flux for the last 2 years. Again, the overall game I think is in a really good shape, and but everyone focuses on this top level because it is what it is, and it's an entertainment product and it's a show. But the faster that it gets rectified, I think the better for everyone.
Not what I signed up for. Golf Pass, business interests, TGL, a green jacket, #1 in the world. I mean, it's a lot going on for this young man, not to mention fatherhood and being a husband.
And it's going to have a knock-on effect on this broader process as well. I mean, we just saw at the board meeting 2 days ago, it was announced that they'd finally found a replacement for Randall Stevenson, who resigned from the board in July. The players are now charged with finding another player director to put on the board. Presumably, it won't be that difficult. It may well even be Adam Scott, who is the current chairman of the pack, who would be next in line to come on the board anyway. But whoever that person is, they have to be brought up to speed on all of these conversations that have been going on, because all of these private equity groups have made in-person pitches and making their case, including 2 player directors. So whoever's coming in is coming in without all of that institutional knowledge that the others have accumulated. So a process that has already been, to use Jay Monahan's phrase in his memo to players on Tuesday morning, he said the process has been deliberate. And this ain't going to make it any faster.
Rory McIlroy has stood tall for the PGA Tour. I imagine he'll be asked about his decision in Dubai. My initial reaction to his choice is good.
I think that will be his as well.